Jaya Jayurata Matava Kunja Bihari Jayurata Matava Kunja Bihari Jayurata Matava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Madhava Gopi Channa Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Channa Vallabha Gopi Channa Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Channa Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Radanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Jayarata Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram jaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayaudiraya. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtigir. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text 37 today. I'll just read the shloka. Aho ashatvad anushittitam yat abhineveshito yam indriyair avidya rachita vishama vishyandha kupe tad alam amushya vanditaya vinoda mrigam mam dik dik iti karyayam chakraha. Okay, word by word. Aho, alas, asadu, not good. Anushtitam, executed. Yat, because. Abhiniveshita, being completely absorbed. Aham, I, Indriyai, for sense gratification. Avidya, by nescience. Rachita, made. Vishama, causing distress. Vishaya, sense gratification. Andakupa, in a dark well. That, tat, that. Alam, insignificant. Alam, of no importance. Amushya, of that. Vanitaya, wife. Vinoda mrigam, just like a dancing monkey. Mam, unto me. Dik, all contamination. Dik, all contamination. Iti, thus. Garayam, criticism. Chakara, heeded. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So here, King Prevrata is speaking. Huh? The king thus began criticizing himself. Alas, how condemned I have become because of my sense gratification. I have now fallen into a material enjoyment, which is exactly like a covered well. I have had enough. I'm not going to enjoy anymore. Just see how I have become like a dancing monkey in the hands of my wife. Because of this, I am condemned. So he's lamenting. You know, what happened to my position? Okay, purport. How condemned is the advancement of material knowledge can be understood from the behavior of Maharaj Priyavrata. He performed such wonderful acts as creating another sun, which shined during the night, and creating a chariot so great that its wheels would form vast oceans. These activities are so great that modern scientists cannot even imagine how such things can be done. Maharaj Priyavrata acted very wonderfully in a material field of activities, but because he was dealing in sense gratification, ruling his kingdom and dancing to the indication of his beautiful wife, he personally condemned himself. When we think about this example of Maharaj Priyavrata, we can just consider how degraded the modern civilization of materialistic advancement. Modern so-called scientists and other materialists are very satisfied because they can construct great bridges, roads and machines, but such activities are nothing compared to those of Maharaj Priyavrata. If Maharaj Priyavrata could condemn himself in spite of his wonderful activities, how condemned we are in our so-called advancement of material civilization. We can conclude that such advancement has nothing to do with the problems of the living entity entangled within his material world. Unfortunately, modern man does not understand his entanglement and how condemned he is, nor does he know what kind of body he is going to have in the next life. From a spiritual point of view, a great kingdom, beautiful wife, and wonderful material activities are all impediments to spiritual advancement. Maharaj Priyavrata had served the great sage Narada sincerely. Therefore, even though he had accepted material opulence, he could not be deviated from his own task. He again became Krishna conscious. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Neha Vikrama Nashosti Pratyavayono Navidyate Svalpa Apyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. In the devotional service there is no loss or diminution, and even a small service rendered in devotional life is sufficient to save one from the greatest danger. 240. Such a renunciation as Maharaj Priyavrata's is possible only by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, when people are powerful or when they have a beautiful wife, a beautiful home, and material popularity, they become more and more entangled. Priyavrata, however, having been completely trained by the great sage Narada, reviving his Krishna consciousness in spite of all impediments. Revived. His Krishna consciousness in spite of all impediments. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Kiranjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Bhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchukalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Paditanam Papanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So the text again. The king thus began criticizing himself. Alas, how condemned I have become because of my sense gratification. I have now fallen into material enjoyment, which is exactly like covered well. I have had enough. I'm not going to enjoy anymore. Just see how I have become like a dancing monkey in the hands of my wife. Because of this, I am condemned. So Priyavrata is speaking to himself, and he says, "It's enough, enough. I have enjoyed enough. Again, I have, fallen into this maya, in this enjoyment, but actually, it's not really giving me real satisfaction, and it just entangles me and makes me more and more fallen. And I've become like a dancing monkey in the hands of my wife," he's saying. So I have basically lost my strength and my self-control, and therefore I am fallen, and therefore I am condemned. So he's lamenting like that. And Prabhupada in the purport makes the point that Prabhupada was such a great personality who could achieve so many amazing things. And still he felt that he was condemned because he was into sense gratification. So how much should we lament? No? Having so much, we are proud of our material advancement, but actually we're so much into material sense gratification. So, but then Prabhupada makes a point, because he had served Narada Muni, he was able to come back to Krishna consciousness. So, one statement which I found is interesting, that catches my attention in the purport. Prabhupada says, from a spiritual point of view, a great kingdom, beautiful wife, and wonderful material activities are all impediments to the spiritual advancement. And it's interesting. Is it really so that the great kingdom, beautiful wife, material activities, they are impediments? Are they impediments? No? Prabhupada is saying? Why not? It depends on the consciousness of the person, yes. Not these things. These things are not Maya in themselves, but it's our mentality to enjoy them. That's the problem. Like a great kingdom. If you're the emperor of a great kingdom, you can spread Krishna consciousness like anything. That's usually how most religion actually expanded, and like Christianity would not exist anymore if not at some point they would have accepted it as the state religion, because some emperor kind of accepted it. So to have a great kingdom is not in itself an impediment. Beautiful wife is not an impediment if she's a Vaishnavi and if you have a proper understanding. And material activities, like if you can do great things in this world, is not an impediment if you can engage it in Krishna consciousness. But, and now comes the big but, because often we are so weak, then we fall victim to the temptations which these things bring. And that's why Kunti Devi, she's praying, Chanmaishvara Shruta Shribhir Idemana Mana Pumam Naivar Hatya Bidatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. She's praying to Krishna, my Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are Akinchana Gochara, those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feelings. So this Janmaishvaya, Janma means good birth, Aishvarya means wealth, Shruta means education, Shri means beauty. If these four things are there, then often such a person is not able to approach the Lord with sincere feeling. Why? Because he thinks, I'm fine, I'm doing good. Whereas a Kinchana Gocharam, one who is exhausted, materially exhausted, who, as now we heard Priyavrata, I have enough, it's enough. That person actually can take shelter with sincere feelings. Because he had enough. He understands that sense gratification is not the goal of life. Prabhupada gives a beautiful purport to this important shloka. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family, possessing great wealth and education and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences. This is known as advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such material puffed up person are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly, O Govinda, O Krishna. So the problem is with these material opulences that people become puffed up and intoxicated, and then they forget about what is actually the goal of life. And then Prabhupada beautifully speaks about the chanting of the holy name. It says in the Shastra that if one chants the holy name one time, the sinner gets rid of a quality of sins that is unable to commit. Like, even in one life you cannot commit. You can commit so many sinful activities, but if you chant one time, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then more sins that you can commit in one lifetime are vanquished, they're finished, destroyed. That's the power of the holy name. Such is the power of the uttering of the holy name of the Lord. There is not at least exaggeration in this statement. It's not kind of a... Sometimes they would say, oh, these kind of statements are just there to give us a little hope. Or the Shastra just want to make advertisement, the holy name is so great. But no, it's actually a fact. But then comes the but. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but what is the but? There is a quality of such utterance also. It depends on the quality of feeling. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. So it's a very powerful purport. It's chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The mantra works, the power is there, but it only manifests its power if we chant it with feeling. If the heart is not involved, we just mechanically Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. There is not, the holy name is not manifesting. But when there is actually feeling, a desire, Krishna, please help me, then that power will manifest. And the point is that those who are so much into material wealth and education, beauty and fame, and then it's difficult for them to actually have these sincere feelings because they think I'm good. So Prabhupada says that the principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to more and more delusion. Grossly delusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance in the kingdom of God. So it's basically if you have a feverish condition, you're sick. So similarly, these Janmaishvarya, Shata Shribir, the good birth and opulence and education and beauty makes a person intoxicated. It's like in a feverish condition, and then this person cannot sincerely pray. So that's one point that Srila Prabhupada makes in the purport, that because people are too much materially advanced, they're not able to understand this. But now here, of course, Priyavrata, although he was intoxicated by this opulence and wealth, he realized his position. So he actually started to lament, and that this lamentation actually enabled him to again take shelter of Krishna. And it's interesting in Bhagavatam, especially in Shastra in general, but especially in the Bhagavatam, we find many stories where people have realized that this sense gratification is not really what brings happiness. And Bhagavad Gita, of course, Krishna also says, what is the shloka? Yehi samsparshata bhokha dukkha noya naya evate adyanta vanta kauntaya nate shu ramate buddha. Nate shu ramate Buddha, the intelligent, the Buddha, the intelligent person does not find pleasure in what? In that which comes from the sense object. Why? Because adyanta vanta kauntaya, they have a beginning and an end. And actually they are dukkha yonaya, they are actually the source of misery. So in this world we think that we can find happiness by enjoying our senses, but actually Krishna says, first of all, it's temporary, it's a very little happiness, it comes and goes. And second, it's also the source of misery, because in the beginning it might be pleasing, but then at the end it becomes actually becomes suffering. Therefore, the intelligent people, they understand true happiness is not found outside, but it's found inside, in the relationship with Krishna. So, but as we said, there's many examples of people, there are stories in the Bhagavatam, people who tried to find happiness outside and then realized this didn't really satisfy them. Can you think of any story in the Bhagavatam? Example? Yeah. I mean, King Puranjana is this story is there. Yeah, that's part of the story. Yeah, in the next life, but he tried to enjoy, and finally, the city was attacked by old age, death, and he lost everything. Another story is the story of Shaubara Muni. Shaubara Rishi, or the Shaubara Muni, he was a great yogi, and he was engaged in austerity. And what he did, he went deep into the water of the river Yamuna, and he would do, under the water, he would do penances. For how many years? Yeah, for many thousands of years. He did tapasya. And then what happened? Yeah, that happened. That was before. Yeah, that's the pre-story. He saw two fish engaging in sex life. I don't know. I've never seen fishes in sex life, but I don't. I think it's not so romantic. It's you don't see so much, most probably. I mean, it's said that like a brahmachari shouldn't see animals engaged in sex life, right? Sometimes in Vrindavan you see the monkeys somewhere on a tree, so that's, you're not supposed to look at this because it could arouse some desires in your heart. And of course, monkeys, they're closer to humans the way they do it, maybe. But fish, yeah. Anyway, just two fish. But it was enough. Shaubara Rishi, when he saw these two fishes in sexual affairs, then thus he kind of remembered the pleasure of sex life, and this desire came up. So much so that he had to end his meditation. So he came out of the water, and he had such a strong desire to enjoy sex life, and then so he said, I have to get married, I have to find a woman. So he went, and there was a kingdom. There was the king Mandata. And King Mandata, he had many princesses. So the yogi, he went straight to the king and said, I want to marry one of your princesses. So when the king saw the yogi, he looked at him like he spent thousands of years underwater. You can imagine how he looked like, right? he was like covered with like green stuff and shrinkled skin. And he was old and ugly and looked fearsome, actually. So the king was like, you want to marry my daughters? I have so many beautiful young daughters, and you want to marry them? So he simply said, yeah, my daughters, they can just choose their husband. It's up to them. They can choose which husband they want to marry. So basically, you can try, but they certainly will not choose you. So then the yogi, he understood, he left, and he said, this king, he think they don't want me. So then he, by his mystical powers, he regained his youth and his beauty. And then he became again very, very young and very beautiful, strong and handsome looking, powerful hero. So then he entered the palace, went inside the residential quarters of the princesses, and then all the 50 princesses accepted him as their husband. There were 50 princesses, and they all were attracted to him because he was so handsome. And then Shaubara Muni, he enjoyed for a long time with 50 young women. And it's described the opulence of his Grihastha ashram. And in this way, Shaubara Muni enjoyed sense gratification in the material world, but he was not at all satisfied, just as a fire never ceases blazing if constantly supplied with drops of fat. So that example is given in different places. If you have a fire, and the fire is burning, like there is a wood, and the wood is slowly devoured by the fire. But that fire is constantly, it's going on, it's never extinguishing as long as you always put some fat inside. It's just continuing. So similarly, the desire to enjoy, we could think, okay, if he has 50 wives, he can enjoy so much, and at some point he will be satisfied. But that was not the case. He enjoyed, but he was never really satisfied. So thereafter, one day, while Shaubara Muni, who was expert in chanting mantras, was sitting in a secluded place, he taught himself about the cause of his fall down, which was simply that he had associated himself with sexual affairs of the fish. And then he started to lament. Like similarly to what we heard from Priyavrata, so Shaubara Muni also lament. Aho imam pashyate me vinashyam tapasvina sachararita vratasya antarjale varichara prasangat prachyavitam brahma chiram dritam yat. Alas, while practicing austerity, even within the depths of the water, and while observing all the rules and regulations practiced by saintly persons, I lost the result of my long austerity simply by associating with the sexual affairs of fish. Everyone should observe this, fall down, and learn from it. It's an interesting. Everyone should observe this, fall down, and learn from it. I did a mistake, but the others should not do the same mistake. No, learn from me. I'm so fallen. I did a mistake. Everyone should learn from me. Don't do the same thing. Sangam tyayate maituna vratina mumuksha sarvatmana vishrecha bhahir indriyani ikascharan rashisi chitam anantishe yunchita tad vratishu sadushu. A person desiring liberation from material bondage must give up the association of persons interested in sex life, and should not employ his senses externally in seeing, hearing, talking, walking, and so on. One should stay in a secluded place, completely fixing his mind at the lotus feet of the unlimited personality of Godhead, and if one wants any association at all, should associate with persons similarly engaged. So, of course, maybe it doesn't sound so practical. The advice here by Shaubara Muni, one should live in a secluded place and not seeing, not looking, not walking, just fix the mind on Krishna and not doing anything else. But then he says, but if you have to associate, which is quite normal, we associate with people all the time, but if you associate, then associate with those similarly engaged in spiritual life. You should associate with devotees. And so this is also advised by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the Chaitya Chandra Dohya Nataka, we find this statement. Alas, for a person seriously desiring to cross the material ocean and engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without material motives, seeing a materialist engaged in sense gratification and seeing a woman who is similarly interested in is more abominable than drinking poison willingly. That's quite a strong statement. So on one side you have, some passionate people who are embracing, kissing each other. On the other hand, he has a pot of poison. Which one you would take? Mahaprabhu says, looking at that passionate people is actually more dangerous than drinking poison. Why? Because it, awakes our own desires for the same thing, and then we get entangled in more and more material life. So therefore, it's mentioned that one should try to give up such association and get the association of saintly people or of devotees who are fixed on the path of spiritual life. And Prabhupada says the Krishna conscious movement is creating many centers just to create devotees, so that by associating with the members of such centers, people will automatically become uninterested in material affairs. And that's also an interesting statement Prabhupada makes. Prabhupada says, we are opening so many temples, and then in these temples we have sadhus, and then people who come to the centers, they get spiritual upliftment because they associate with the temple devotees. What does it mean for us? Huh? Responsibility, yeah, that means we have to become sadhus, sadhvis. That's Prabhupada's program. Those who live in a temple, they should be exemplary. Then people coming from outside, then they're getting a lot of spiritual upliftment just by associating with us. That brings a lot of responsibility. That's why Krishna conscious movement is creating many centers, just to create devotees, so that by associating with the members of such centers, people will automatically become uninterested in material affairs. Although this is an ambitious proposal, this association is proving effective by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By gradually associating with the members of the Krishna conscious movement, simply by taking prasadam and taking part in chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, ordinary person are being considerably elevated. Prabhupada speaks of his experience. And so this sadhu sangha is extremely important and very powerful. And asat sangha, which is the opposite, bad association, is very dangerous. An interesting thing is, here is this statement from Chaitanya Chandradaya Nataka describes bad association outside. We see some people engaged in sense gratification, and of course, in today's world, as soon we walk out of this temple, then we see so many people engaged in all these material activities. You see some advertisement, and you see people on the streets, and so there is, from outside, there's a lot of influence, a lot of bad association in that sense. But then, what in some way even more dangerous is the asat sangha that we carry within our own heart, because someone can actually stay in a temple, very peaceful in a temple, completely protected from the external, but inside there is all kind of asat sangha going on. He's thinking about all these things. And of course, nowadays we have most asat sangha comes from where nowadays? From the smartphone, social media. You can get all kind of asat sangha you can get from there. And of course, from there it goes into your mind, into your heart, and then you carry it with you. So one should get rid of this asat sangha, and therefore sadhu sangha is so important. In the 11th canto, this is from the Uddhava Gita, there is a statement. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, by associating with my pure devotees, one can destroy one's attachment for all object of material sense gratification." Jai Jagannath Baladev Sudra. So simply by associating with my devotees, Krishna says, one can destroy one's attachment for all sense gratification, simply by sadhu sangha. Not only that, such purifying association brings me under the control of my devotees. Krishna says, I'm becoming controlled by the devotees who associate with the devotees. If I see that devotees have this proper sadhu sangha, then I become controlled. I feel so attracted. And then Krishna gives a whole list of other things that we can do which have not the same effect. Krishna says, one may perform the Astanga Yoga system, engage in philosophical analysis, practice non-violence, chant Vedas, perform penances, take to the renounced order of life, accept sannyas, execute sacrificial performances, dig wells, plant trees, perform other public welfare activities, give in charity, carry out severe vows, worship the demigods, chant confidential mantras, visit holy places. But even by performing such activities, one does not bring me under his control. But simply by sadhu sangha, such purifying association brings me under the control of my devotees. So Uddhava, is there any other blessing greater than sadhu sangha? No, there is no other blessing. The greatest blessing that we can have is sadhu sangha. There is nothing that is more powerful than the association of devotees. And of course sadhu sangha, Keshav Maharaj explained also in the retreat, you may remember sadhu sangha has two meanings. Usually when we speak of sadhu sangha, then we think of the association with sadhu, like really the very advanced pure devotees. If we have their association, then that's sadhu sangha, and that's true. That's also that kind of sangha that we should strive for. We should actually be very eager to always have the association of those who are more advanced than ourselves. And it says there is different ingredients. The person should be more advanced. The person should have this similar mood, and the person should show some compassion towards us. There should be some kindness, some loving exchange between the two. And then that's sadhu sangha. The person is more advanced, the person has an understanding for my heart, and he is also kind to me. And that kind of association is very powerful. So that's one aspect or understanding of sadhu sangha that we should strive for. But then we also understand that even if two devotees come together, and they are maybe on the same platform, they may be not pure devotees, but if they have quality sangha meaning that they actually speak about Krishna, they chant the holy name, they try to help them each other to progress spiritually, then that's also sadhu sangha. Because the sangha is sat, it's eternal, it's about the Krishna is in the center. And that makes that association also, you can also consider that as sadhu sangha. That's also uplifting and helpful. Of course, the most powerful is always to associate with the pure devotees, but even that is powerful. So therefore one should always strive for sadhu sangha. Because sadhus always tell us, and they always remind us, that we should not become vishai. We should not become those who are engaged in sense gratification. That they always remind us that, don't try to find pleasure outside. But usually that's what we do, right? That's just a natural tendency. And there is the 5 objects of the sense gratification: Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. The sound, touch, form, taste, smell. And the senses are always going in that direction. And there is this famous statement also from the Uddhava Gita, and Sridhar Swami, the great commentator on the Bhagavatam, gives this interesting example. Here it says, Dristva Shriyam Deva Maya Mayam Tatabhavir Achitendriya. One who has failed to control his senses immediately feels attraction upon seeing a woman's form, which is created by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. Indeed, when the woman speaks with enticing words, smiles, and moves her body sensuously, his mind is immediately captured, and thus he falls blindly into the darkness of material existence. just as the moth, maddened by the fire, rushes blindly into its flames. There is, sometimes you see in the summertime, if you sit somewhere outside and then there is one little candle or one light, you see all the moths, all the insects, boom, they fly into the fire. You say, wow, why they are flying into the fire? They all burn, they all die. But they can't help themselves. They see the light and they feel so attracted. They just go to that light. They can't, they just naturally feel attracted to that light, and then they just burn. So similarly, if one feels attracted to the opposite sex and is, overwhelmed by that passionate desires, then one also will burn himself. And then Sridhar Swami gives these different analogies. He says, Srila Sridhar Swami explains in this regard that just as a moth is killed by its attraction to the form of fire, similarly, a bee can easily be killed by exploiting its attraction to the fragrance of flowers. Furthermore, hunters may trap and kill an elephant by exploiting its sensuous desire to touch a captivative female elephant, and may also kill a deer by attracting it with sounds of their horns. And a fish is killed by its desire to taste the bait on a hook. Thus, one who desires to learn detachment from material illusion should accept these 5 helpless creatures as guru and learn the needful. Learn the needful. So there is 5 gurus. Who are the 5 gurus? The moth, the elephant, the deer, the fish. The hook is not an animal. Yeah. So the moth is attracted by form, rupa. He sees fire, and the moth goes inside. Then the elephant is captivated by touch. The elephant, they like, I don't know, although they have quite a thick skin, but somehow the elephant likes to get the feeling of touch. And they say that they have a female elephant, and then next to the female elephant there is a hole covered with grass, and then the elephant goes there and wants to touch the female elephant and then falls in. And then the deer is always attracted by sound. It's by sound, which is shabda. The hunter may blow his horn and create some sound, and the deer comes, wants to listen, and then can kill it. And then the fish is attracted to taste, so they put some worm on a hook, and then the fish wants to taste it, and then he gets hooked. So in this way, the interesting thing is that these different creatures, these different animals, they are captured because they are not able to control themselves. They are captured because they are, they get victim by one of the sense objects. So that's why one should take these as guru and learn the needful. What is the needful? One should try to control the senses. And of course, especially sex life, because all the different senses are engaged and they're enjoying all the different sense objects. There is, you can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can taste, you can, I don't know how much you taste, but you can touch. So all the senses are engaged, and that's why it becomes a very intoxicating experience. And the lesson is one should learn to become sober and control one's senses. And just as Priyavrata was lamenting, and just as Shobara Muni was lamenting, there is another person lamenting in the Bhagavatam, and that's Pingala the prostitute. This is also from the Uddhava Gita, and basically it's also part of this the Avanti Brahmana, who has this different gurus. He learns from what he sees in the world. And there was once a prostitute named Pingala in the city of Videha, And from her the Avadut learned another lesson. One day she dressed herself in a very attractive clothing and ornaments and was waiting from sunset until midnight for customer. She waited in great anticipation, but as the time passed her mind became very uneasy. No man came to see her, and in disgust she finally became renounced, giving up her hankering for the arrival of such a man. Thereafter she engaged herself in thinking only of the Supreme Lord, Hari, and her mind achieved the supreme platform of peace. The instruction received from her is that hopes for sense gratification hope for sense gratification are the root cause of all suffering. Therefore only one has to give up such hankering, can fix himself in meditation upon the Supreme Person and achieve true peace. So the prostitute said, and with this we will end, the prostitute said, "Just see how greatly illusioned I am. Because I cannot control my mind, just like a fool, I desire lusty pleasure from an insignificant man. I am such a fool that I have given up the service of that person who, being eternally situated within my heart, is actually most dear to me. That most dear one is the Lord of the universe, who is the bestower of real love and happiness, and the source of all prosperity. Although he is in my own heart, I have completely neglected him. Instead, I have ignorantly served insignificant men who can never satisfy my real desire, and who have simply brought me unhappiness, fear, anxiety, lamentation, and illusion." Very nice prayers or lamentation. The Supreme Person, who is my dear friend, he's actually in my own heart, and he's right there, and I can have a relationship with him, and he's the best friend, and he wants to be in a relationship with me, but I have neglected that friend, and I have looked outside, tried to satisfy some materialistic man who at the end only gave me unhappiness. Why did I neglect my relationship to Krishna? Oh, how have I uselessly tortured my own soul. I have sold my body to lusty, greedy men, who are themselves objects of pity. Thus, practicing the most abominable profession of a prostitute, I hope to get money and sex pleasure. This material body is like a house in which the soul am living. The bones forming my spine, ribs, arms and legs are like the beams, cross beams and pillars of the house, and the whole structure, which is full of stool and urine, is covered by skin, hair and nails. It's quite a sober analysis of what actually the body is. The 9 doors leading into this body are constantly excreting full substances. Beside me, what woman should be so foolish as to devote herself to this material body, thinking that she might find pleasure and love in this contraption? Certainly in this city of Videha, I alone am completely foolish. I neglected the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who awards us everything, even our original spiritual form, and instead I decided to enjoy sense gratification with many men. So she was quite a spiritual prostitute who awakened to transcendental knowledge. And she understood, what is this body? This body is just, it's a material elements, and I am actually the owner of the body. I'm the spiritual soul who resides within the body, and as such I have an eternal relationship with Krishna, so why should I give so much attention to the body, the bodily pleasures? Why not establish my eternal relationship with Krishna? And this kind of awakening, this kind of realization, this kind of spiritual lamentation, how does it come, or how is it possible? It's only through sadhu sangha. Prabhupada says in the purport that, I will just read this and I will end. Maharaj Priyavrata had served the great sage Narada sincerely. Therefore, even though he had accepted material opulences, he could not be deviated from his own task. He again became Krishna conscious. So Priyavrata was lamenting that he, became a victim, he fell into the material sense gratification, but because he had previously served Narada Muni, he had that blessing and by his spiritual master's mercy, he again got the strength to go back to Krishna consciousness and then fully practice and fix the mind on Krishna. So that's possible by the mercy of sadhus, and therefore I think we are all in that situation of Priyavrata, Shobra Muni, or the prostitute, that we are kind of still have some hopes to find pleasure in this world through sense gratification. But by the mercy of Sadhu Sangha, we may hopefully can give it up and then fully take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Time is already up. Any short questions or comments? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sadhusanga, so many swamis are coming, still my mind. Is it actually working, this process? I remember once Fakir Mohan Prabhu, he was an Oriya professor. He was not an ISKCON member, but he was a Gaudiya Vaishnava, very elderly gentleman, and he was very close to my Guru Maharaj, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, and I think he was I'm not sure he was a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur or connected to the Gaudiya ashram of it. In any case, he was certainly a very advanced sadhu, and I asked him the same question. We hear sadhusanga is so important, sadhusanga. I mean, I asked a little different. I said, but it's not so easy to get that sadhusanga. It was a little different question. But he said, you got so much sadhusanga, but now you have to follow the instruction of sadhus. So, yes, we have little sadhusanga, we have much sadhusanga, but what we need to do is to accept their instruction and then really try to implement these instructions. Like, okay, we had 1 week bhakti retreat, we listened to so many lectures, but how much from the content that we heard, how much have we now already implemented in our life? It's a good question, no? How much have we applied? Many of us maybe went in here and went out there. We not even remember what the sadhu spoke there. So sometimes it's good to go back and try to reflect, okay, what were the instructions, and then try to implement these instructions really in our lives. And then sadhusanga can become more powerful when we try to actually implement what we heard. Okay.
Yes, sometimes if I see my previous activities before I went it's totally opposite of some. And for Mesokartada, we do that we go to the next one and we enter the temple. So of course we have sadhusanga in temple, especially in moments of the Krishna Kata, like now, when speak about the administration, nobody speak about the administration title, and opposite we can hear the Krishna pastime wonderful in the Kirtan, yes, we chant Hare Krishna, all this is activities of the
Sangha.
But like our consciousness have lacks that have moments, have moments in the temple that our consciousness
Gossiping, yes. Gossiping.
It's totally opposite of Krishna Kata, because you're not glorified.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
So this moment
Mm.
is very good.
These are
In the beginning of the spiritual life, it is.
Yeah. These are good reflections that I mentioned the point how Prabhupada says that we have created this temple so that devotees become devotees, and then guests who visit the temple, they have sadhu sangha. That means we all have to become sadhus, because that's what we are meant to be. That's Prabhupada's program. That when guests come to the temple, they have sadhu sangha. But yeah, Mahakrishna Prabhu makes the point that the temple is also like a hospital. In a hospital, you not only find doctors, you also find sick people. That's kind of the nature of a hospital. You find people who also, they still need treatment themselves. So you can't expect that everyone is just like a pure devotee. But then there will be also patients who also need treatment. And yes, sadhu sangha especially manifests when we have these spiritual programs, when we hear about Krishna, when we hear about, like today we hear about renunciation. And while I was speaking, I was thinking, we have this live stream. Sometimes I'm singing. If any new person wants to learn something about us, and then they just choose one lecture and listen. Sometimes maybe a little bit like, wow, what are they talking? Like you have to give up, sense gratification. And it can be maybe hard to understand what we are talking, because it's quite a different way to look at the world. Yes, and gossiping can be a great danger if devotees in a temple spend their times with gossip. That's great. Prabhupada once made a statement that gossip can destroy this movement. So, prajalpaya. So that's a good reminder for us as devotees. We should try to speak about meaningful things, even if we interact with each other while prasadam. Let's try to speak about things that are uplifting. It's kind of important. And especially when you speak to guests. We should try to, encourage and give them Krishna consciousness. Alright, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Ram. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna.